It is Tuesday, June 16th, 2026, and this is The High Road, Logistics and Leadership. I'm Dan Miller, and I treat every freight RFP like a fourth quarter comeback drive.
This is Elena Rossi.
You're listening to Jules Sterling.
And I'm Buck Reynolds. We have a great show for you today.
Look, yesterday we were breaking down that fragile ceasefire in the Strait of Hormuz and how it might settle the diesel markets. But honestly, the ink isn't even dry and we're already staring at a whole new set of headaches. Here's the play for today.
It really feels like we're operating in two different worlds right now, right? I mean, on one hand, we've got this air freight surge and international demand spiking.
And on the other hand, you have the Strategic Petroleum Reserve hitting a 43-year low. Actually, it's a 3430.3 million barrel floor.
Oh, only 34 years of security left? I mean, I remember when we actually kept the tanks full. The thing is, when you're down to your last third of capacity, you're basically running on fumes and a prayer.
It's a depth chart problem, Buck. Look, the Department of Energy says we dropped 8.9 million barrels just last week. Bottom line, the Trump administration is trying to dump another 172 million to keep the fuel spikes from a 15-week Iran conflict from killing the recovery.
Right, but is it enough? I mean, my retail accounts are seeing those 48% year-over-year rises in air freight spot rates, and they're starting to panic about their Q4 inventory.
Well, they should be worried, if I may. Because while the big guys are front-loading cargo, the capacity side is bleeding out. Actually, RRR carriers just filed for Chapter 7 liquidation.
177 trucks? Just gone?
Precisely. And 286 drivers in Laredo just lost their seats. You see, it's that dual-speed economy Dan mentions. The demand is moving, but the cost of staying alive is just too high for the mid-size guys.
Look, it's a high-stakes chess game, and RRR just got put in checkmate by diesel costs and debt.
I mean, you call it chess. I call it a meat grinder. You can't run a cross-border shop with fuel sitting where it is and the SPR basically being a hollowed-out cavern.
Well, okay. But there's a flip side to the gloom, right? I mean, I'm hearing a lot of buzz about this American Supply Chain Sovereignty Initiative. Secretary Sean Duffy was just at the Port of LA basically promising a TSA pre-check for containers.
Oh, look. Now it's a velocity play. Duffy wants a centralized nerve center that connects the ports directly to the railroads and the big box retailers.
Actually, I suppose it sounds efficient, but my thing is, who's liable when that high visibility dashboard gets hacked? If the DOT gets role-based access to private sector data points, we're basically handing the government the keys to the entire freight house.
Oh, great. Because the government is so good at keeping data safe, right? I mean, the Flow program back in 22 was voluntary. Now they're trying to shove this into the National Defense Authorization Act.
But it's about visibility, Buck. You know, if we can move verified cargo into express lanes that skip the congestion, my clients can actually plan their labor around arrival times instead of just guessing.
It's the AWS model for docks, Jules. Look, they're trying to bake it into the $580 billion highway bill. The Build America Act.
$580 billion?
Yeah, it's the heavy hitter successor to the IIJA. Look, the DOT is betting that pre-screening and tech-heavy infrastructure is the only way to tackle inflation.
Actually, I find it fascinating that they're framing it as sovereignty. It's essentially a move to insulate the domestic supply chain from global shocks.
Or a way to make sure Walmart gets their toys on time. But honestly, If we're going to spend that kind of money, I'd like to see more of it going into the labor side.
Well, look, before we dive into the labor gap and these digital twins, I need to take a quick time out for the folks who make this broadcast possible.
Right. Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering, and this show is powered by The Stack, developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media.
Support the architect behind the code. Visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Neural Network Media for a free trial and access to our daily briefing PDF.
All right, huddle up. It's time for Spot Rate Tape, our Tuesday segment where we look at the actual numbers hitting the pavement for this week of June 16th.
Let's see if my shippers are going to be happy or crying into their coffee this morning, right?
Look, let's look at the tape. The headline is that manufacturing just hit a 4-year high. We're talking a 54% PMI. That's finally trickling down to the wheels. So for the first time in 2 years, that capacity overhang we've all been whining about, it's officially toast.
Gone? I mean, tell that to the guys sitting in truck stops waiting for a load.
Oh, they won't be sitting for long, Buck. Dry van national averages are sitting at $3.83 per mile. Now, that includes the fuel, but it's up 4 cents just this week.
Actually, is that driven by supply contraction or a real demand spike?
Both! Look, it's a pincer move. We've got the road check hangover still lingering, plus this massive industrial push. Reefer is holding at 340, though. It's cooling off a bit from that insane May run.
And flatbed? I mean, my industrial accounts are telling me it's nearly impossible to find a deck right now.
Records across the board. Flatbed is sitting at 403 a mile, and it's climbed for 29 out of the last 30 weeks. It's the heavyweight champ right now, fueled by all those AI data centers being built out west.
High-tech sheds built by old-fashioned steel. I love it. But what's the call-out lane this week, Dan?
Look, keep your eyes on Yakima, Washington. Well, the Florida produce season is basically an afterthought now, but the Yakima cherry harvest is hitting full stride.
And I suppose that means reefer rates in the Pacific Northwest are going to see a double-digit climb?
Bingo! If you've got PNW outbound in your routing guide, expect those primary carriers to start chasing the cherries. Oh, you're going to be paying the spot tax through July 4th.
Oh, great. Another call where I have to tell a client that their guaranteed rate just went up in smoke.
Look, it's a yield-up environment now. Bottom line, the bottom is behind us. And if you didn't lock in your July capacity, you're already behind the 8 ball. Spot rate tape? That's a wrap.
Speaking of being behind the 8 ball, actually, did you guys see the Gartner report on AI talent? Demand for supply chain pros with AI skills has surged 387%.
Oh, good. More people to stare at screens and tell me I'm 2 minutes late for a doc appointment.
Fuck, it's actually a crisis. Gartner looked at 35 million job postings. 58% of the demand is at the director level.
Look, it's a seniority gap. They don't want 22-year-old coders. They want veterans who can bridge the gap between legacy docs and agentic orchestration.
Actually, organizations cannot close this gap through hiring alone. That's what Tess Frenzel from Gartner is saying.
I mean, you can't download 20 years of road experience into a chatbot, right? The thing is, they're trying to automate the thought process of logistics.
Which is why Unilever and Accenture just announced that partnership today. They're scaling a global network of AI-enabled digital twins.
Look, it's a virtual replica of the entire supply chain. They can simulate a strike or a hurricane before it even
Can
hits.
it simulate a broken wheel bearing in a blizzard?
Actually, Buck, it's more about the macro flow. Although, Volvo Trucks North America just moved their remote programming into unattended territory.
Wait, unattended? I mean, the truck just updates itself while the driver is asleep?
Precisely. It's on their new 24-volt platform. It can update nearly every electronic control unit, engine, transmission, battery, without a human present.
Oh, that sounds real safe. I'm sleeping in the bunk and the truck decides it wants a new personality? I mean, what if the update bricks the engine in the middle of a rest stop?
Look, Peter Vorhove over at Volvo is claiming it's reduced unplanned stops by 24%. They did 18,000 updates in May alone.
It sort of shifts maintenance from a scheduled disruption to just a background task, right? 80% of connected Volvo trucks are already running the latest software.
It's a productivity gain, certainly, but it also creates a massive digital liability. Which actually brings us to the biggest legal headline we've seen in a
The
decade.
High Court shakeup. Look, this is the one every broker in America needs to be sweating. The Supreme Court just handed down a 9-0 decision in Montgomery versus Carib Transport.
A unanimous ruling against broker immunity? That's the end of the federal shield for C.H. Robinson and the big guys, right?
Precisely. The court ruled that negligent selection claims are not preempted by the FAAA. They fall under the safety exception.
I mean, translate that into driver speak for me. What does it actually mean on the ground?
It means if a broker hires a carrier that has a history of safety violations, and that carrier gets into a crash, the broker can be sued for millions in state court for picking a bad apple.
You know, for years, the brokers just used the FAAA to get these cases dismissed before they ever hit
The
a jury.
shield is shattered. Look, vetting just went from a best practice to a legal survival skill. The Fourth Circuit already reinstated a major South Carolina lawsuit against a broker just days after the ruling.
I mean, about time. Shippers and brokers have been hiring whoever's cheapest and ignoring the safety scores for too long. The thing is, now they've got skin in the game.
But my thing is, how do we define reasonable care? Actually, brokers must now prove they exercised it when checking FMCSA data. But we all know that data is messy.
It's a total mess, Selena. But this is going to lead to a massive consolidation, right? I mean, if you're a small broker without a compliance team, you're basically a walking target for a nuclear verdict.
Look, it's a game of shadows now. You either have the tech to vet carriers in real time, or you're going to be out of business.
So, more screens, more AI, and more lawyers. Sounds like a real party, Dan.
Complacency is the precursor to catastrophe. Actually, I think we just saw the pre-recession broker model die today.
It's a structural crossroads for the whole industry, you know? Between the robots driving and the lawyers suing, the human relationship is the only thing left that's real.
That's the high road, folks. Look, bottom line, stay sharp, keep your eye on the tape, and don't hire a carrier without checking their safety score twice. That's all for today's High Road. We covered the energy floor, the infrastructure moonshot, and the legal ruling that's changing the game for every broker and shipper in the country. Keep the freight moving.
Stay safe out there.
Catch you tomorrow.
Keep it shiny side up.
Look, at the end of the day, if you aren't playing the long game, you're just playing yourself.